has only 4 words. This one's for John. This one's for Pat.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 7 of Interviewing Broncos Country. We've had people from the Philippines. We've had people from New Zealand. We've had people in Australia. And today we're bringing in Tice Morgan. What's up, buddy?
What's happening? How we doing?
Yeah, dude, super stoked to have you in here. Right off the bat, are you local to the Denver area or are you from somewhere else?
So not anymore. I grew up in Colorado. I was born and raised there for 19 years. I live out in Utah at the moment, Draper,
Okay.
Utah with my wife. Yeah.
That's awesome. You strike
Yeah.
me as a hunter. You hunt hogs or deer,
Coyotes.
coyotes.
Yeah.
I lived in northern Washington, and there would be people that have farms out there that would actually hire you to come,
Yeah.
get the coyotes off their farm.
Oh yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
problem.
I know. Oh, it's a huge issue. Yeah, I know a few ranchers out here. My stepdad, his brother lives in Texas. So we'll take a trip down every year. We'll do a week of hogs. But there's no hogs, this far north. So I picked up coyotes and it's so much fun. It's so fun.
Yeah, my dad's in Ocala in Florida, and they do a lot of hog hunting down there, especially in Georgia too.
Mm-hmm.
Right
Yeah.
now, I'm in Tennessee. So
Yeah.
But yeah, let's talk about your love for the Broncos. How did that begin, and how long has that been going on?
Since day one, dude. My mom told me a story. I ended up asking her if she'd ever gone to Old Mile High Stadium. And my birthday is December 21st, 2000. So she was pregnant with me the whole last season, basically leading up to, the last season for Old Mile High. And I was born 2 days before the final game there. And my mom had season tickets and my grandpa's had season tickets for as long as I can remember. And I remember asking her and laughing about it. And she said she begged and pleaded the nurses to let her go to the last game, but they wouldn't let her out of the hospital 2 days postpartum. So she didn't get to go.
Oh my gosh.
Which sucks. But yeah, I was born into it. I've been diehard since day one.
So your mom is she bleeds orange and blue.
Oh, the whole family does. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
does your grandparents also
Yeah.
Denver Bronco fans?
Yeah. Yeah. My grandpa's a huge Denver Bronco fan. My mom's side of the family, I don't know the exact number. They're like 5th generation Coloradans. I mean,
Wow.
the family's been there forever. My grandpa grew up with the Broncos, and they've got super, super deep roots in Colorado. If you go out, 9 News, actually, local news station here, they just did a segment on my grandpa and one of his sisters and one of his brothers. If you fly into Denver, right outside the airport boundaries of property there's a little red barn that's like a state historical society or a
Yeah.
state historical thing, and that was the barn that my grandpa grew up in. And the
Wow.
airport bought out, the airport bought out all my great grandpa's land. They had a whole ranch. They grew up on a farm. My mom grew up on a farm.
Right there by the airport?
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's right off of, I can't remember what road it is, but it's right off the road there. I mean, it comes right up to the road and then up a hill there where you can see the actual airport. But yeah.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
they had a whole bunch of land out there. There's a bunch of equipment that old like antique farming equipment that's set up outside the airport. There's just kind of like a row of it of like old, Millers and stuff like that. And like half of that was my great grandpa's.
No
So
shit. That's
yeah,
crazy.
yeah,
I I love the Broncos, but I'm the first person in my family to really attach to them.
yeah,
Growing up in Wisconsin, everybody was a Packers fan, and um,
yeah.
it's like such a deep passion. It's
Oh
there's
yeah,
it's hard to explain it and put it into
yeah,
words. But I
yeah,
can tell but it's totally different because you have you said seventh generation people.
yeah.
I
Five,
mean,
5 or 6, something like
that's
that.
that's insane.
Yeah,
I don't even know, my dad's dad, because he was
yeah,
adopted. Um,
yeah,
so it kind of like makes it hard. So I find it really interesting when people know where their roots and where they come from. And the
yeah.
9 News did the story on your grandpa. That's really, really cool. Um,
Yeah.
so you said, was it your grandparents or your parents that had season tickets?
Both of them. My parents are divorced now, but my mom's got season tickets, and my dad has season tickets, and my grandpa has season tickets. My dad and my mom and my grandpa, they had season tickets for as long as I could remember. I went to my first Bronco game when I was like 5, and I've
You
gone.
remember it?
No, not the first one.
What was the
There
first
was.
game that you gained consciousness, like, in the stadium?
um, there's a couple that I remember pretty vividly, but I got to go to the what was it? 2000 2012 probably is the first year that I really remember it. I think I got to go to a game that year. Um,
That was Manning's first year.
yep, yep, and that was the year we went to the Super Bowl too. So I think it was like opening day or
Yeah.
um,
Oh, it might have been 2013 then, because I know 2012 we, lost to the Ravens in the divisional round. That was that Joe Flacco Hail Mary.
yeah, I know, to Jacoby Jones over Raheem Moore.
Yeah, yeah, and then the
Yeah,
next year, we went to the Super Bowl, and Manning threw 7 touchdowns against the Ravens week 1, and that was,
yeah,
like, our revenge game. So it was probably that
yeah,
year.
yeah, yeah. It was against the Ravens that game then, and I watched him light it up. That was the first game that I vividly remember. I remember going to games, and I remember seeing I watched Jake Plummer play.
Yeah,
I was a
yeah,
big I was a big Jake Plummer fan, and I had one of his jerseys growing up, and Jay Cutler and Kyle Orton. And I
yeah.
remember going to games, and I remember seeing people and being there, but I don't really remember like any of the games. But
I'm a huge Jake Plummer fan. Have you followed him recently?
no, no.
Oh, man, you gotta check out the YouTube videos. He's created he's always been kind of a hippie, and
Yeah.
I I hate that term because it almost discredits, like, true medical breakthroughs that he's found that, using mushrooms for certain things can help him.
Yeah,
And science
yeah,
really hasn't, I think we haven't even cracked the surface on psilocybin and mushrooms, but uh, Jake Plummer's like really into it, and he has his own business, and I think he grows for the state of Colorado, and it's just really
yeah,
interesting seeing him talk about it because you
yeah,
know him as the quarterback of the Denver Broncos, and then there's this whole other side of him that's like
yeah,
really, really interesting stuff out there. Um,
yeah.
so your first game, or one of the first moments you remember, is that Ravens game, and then of course that means that you also remember Super Bowl 47 or
Yeah. No, we don't talk about that.
48. Yeah, no,
Yeah,
I didn't want
48.
to
We don't.
either. I'm just
That
gonna.
that Super Bowl didn't happen that year. It was canceled.
Yeah, the one that happened 2 years later happened. The,
Yes, sir. Yes, it
the
did.
that one definitely happened. And where
Yeah.
were you at for that Super Bowl?
I was in my best friend's house. It was me, and I've had the same friend group since like second grade. We all just grew up together, and I was in my best friend Aiden's house, and my buddy Carrick was there, and yeah, I don't know. I remember we were watching in his living room. I remember going nuts. the whole game, we were just so stoked to watch. And Von Miller with the fumble, and I'm a huge, huge, huge Derek Wolfe fan. He's one of my
Yeah,
favorite
me
players
too.
ever. Yeah, he's
I have
one of
his
my favorite
autograph.
dudes ever. Really? That's
Yeah,
sweet.
yeah.
I got to I got to sit in the tunnel when the Broncos were going out that year. Actually, I got to sit in the tunnel when my stepmom had a thing for work, and they let us sit in the tunnel. And I don't know, uh, I don't trust stats like on players, like
Yeah.
size stats. Because Derek Wolfe, and I can't stress this enough, Derek Wolfe is the single biggest dude I've seen in my life. I was right there. Like I was like 2 feet away from him. I gave him a high five. He's the single biggest guy I've seen in my life. The dude is ginormous. And
Yeah.
like ever since then, I've just been a huge fan of him. I followed him all the way through. I don't even know where he ended up. Baltimore,
Yeah, you end up
with the neck injuries. And yeah,
yeah, all that stuff.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't bring this up on everyone, but it came up organically here. So I'll mention I was in the Navy and I got into a really bad accident, and
Mm,
the Denver Broncos through the grapevine heard about what had happened, and they sent me this card here. I keep it right here, and it was a letter from the people that work in the salute to service department for the Broncos.
yeah,
I don't know,
yeah.
I
Oh
know her
yeah,
name is Liz, and she wrote me this that said, "Thank you so much for your sacrifices you've made for our country. We're grateful for your support, and we hope to make you proud this season." And in the box that this came in was a actual game ball signed by Derek Wolfe.
yeah.
And
That's
yeah,
electric. That's the coolest thing ever.
and it was just like, how did they even know? You know what I mean? That,
Yeah,
and obviously it was probably my chain of command told somebody, but the fact that they actually got back to me, and
yeah,
honestly, if the only thing in that box was that letter, I would have been, really happy
yeah,
about it. But the fact that Derek Wolfe, took the time to sign a ball, and
yeah.
do that just means a ton. Um, yeah, love Derek Wolfe. Did you follow that
Yeah.
story where he was on Joe Rogan talking about um, shooting that mountain lion that was eating
Oh
everyone's
yeah.
dog?
Of course, dude. Of course I followed that. Yeah.
That's
That was
sick, dude.
awesome.
I just was
Yeah.
showing that to somebody 2 days ago. It comes up often for me.
Yeah. That's like, yeah, that's one of my favorite things about him. I just love that he's like a Colorado guy. He hunts, he's an outdoorsman, and then he just like went and killed this ginormous mountain lion. I think that's hysterical. I love that.
Yeah, and the fact that he like tracked it for like
Yeah.
hours, and it just
Yeah.
that is just like so animalistic. I love it. Like
Yeah.
I wouldn't expect any less from Derek Wolfe. Like he would be
Yeah.
the guy to do that job.
100%. Just a big Viking dude. He's gonna go out and kill something. Absolutely, dude.
So the
Yeah.
last 10 years haven't been great. We haven't made the postseason. And you know what? You seem a lot older than your birth year. I was born in
Thank you.
'94.
Okay.
Yeah. And I was just making this, I think it was the very first episode we did where I was talking about how um for people that are maybe younger, that let's say most people start really remembering football games around 8, 9 years old. Let's
Yeah.
say Super Bowl 50 was when they were 8, and they're like barely
Yeah.
remember that. Maybe
Yeah.
like how you feel about Jake Plummer. That's how I feel about Brian Greasy. Like
Yeah.
you just barely remember it. So for their whole entire lifetime, right now they're an
Yep.
adult. They can, do anything that, they can join the military, whatever. They have not seen the Broncos in the playoffs. And
Yep.
for an organization that has kind of boasted these type of stats, like more Super Bowl appearances than losing seasons,
Yep.
the John Elway, the Peyton Manning, it's like
Yep.
you think of successful franchises, you think the Yankees, the Broncos, the Steelers, you
Yep.
think of these, and it's like for those kids out there that Super Bowl 50s, like just when they started remembering football, we're the Texans,
Yeah.
we're the Browns, like we're one of those teams, and it's weird to
Yep.
think about it, but it's like, how are those kids doing is what I wonder, because I'm like, what are they hanging on to? Because they don't remember the Manning era, they don't,
Yeah.
of course, remember John Elway. So it's like, how are they doing? Like, how's their mental health? Like, I worry about them.
Yeah, I don't know, and I think it's probably very difficult to get into it now. And the biggest thing that I think of though, like growing up, is we had Pat Bowlen,
Yeah,
and like a lot of people don't really think of owners as being a big part of the team. And Pat Bowlen was special. He's one of the greatest owners in history. He's one of the most successful owners in the NFL. And I don't know, the first, like after he had died, and they were kind of going through the limbo of who was going to get the team out of his kids, and then it was his like 24-year-old daughter or something, and then
it got
for
messy.
a while, yeah, for a while there though, I don't know. I was mostly worried that the Broncos that I knew and I grew up with, they just died off with Pat Bowlen, and that we'd have to. And I think in a sense they did. So I think it's probably pretty difficult to be a Broncos fan right now for people that don't remember that. Like even my wife, she didn't grow up a Broncos fan. Her family didn't really watch sports at all, except for like a little bit of college and whatnot. And so like now she makes fun of me. She's still not a. She'll go to games with me, and she'll watch Avalanche games with me, but she won't watch Broncos games. She's like, "Why are you watching? They're terrible." And I was like, "It's not. You don't watch them because they're good. We watch them.
Yeah.
We
Do
watch them
you
because we
really think
have
I
to."
have a choice? Like,
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. I think a lot of the younger kids, it's got to be super rough. Like I got a little brother. I think he just turned 18, and he like you said, he was born in 2005, I think, four, somewhere around there. Um, and I think even he has trouble like kind of getting into the Broncos still because he was so young when it happened, and he didn't grow
yeah.
up with the Broncos in the early 2000s with Champ Bailey and all those great players that we fell in love with. And
Yeah.
I think it's difficult to turn into like a diehard, like an adult diehard fan now.
Yeah, and it's like, what came first? The because no one is a bandwagon fan, but it does help you fall deeper in love when your team is winning football games.
Oh
Like,
yeah, yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
I mean, I started watching with Brian Greasy, and I remember Jake Plummer. The first, like the first game that I remember vividly was the 2000, and I was watching for years at this point. But now, as an adult looking back, I can't remember those games I was watching. But I do remember Jake Plummer and that 2005 AFC divisional round where Champ Bailey had that 99-yard
Yeah, yeah,
interception, and
yeah,
like, even though we weren't winning Super Bowls, like that's the kind of stuff that keeps a young fan hanging on. Like,
yeah.
oh,
It's just
last year we
it's a
got
big yeah,
exactly, like last year we
yeah,
only were one game away, or they were making the
yeah,
playoffs mostly
yeah,
every year. I would say there's a couple years in
yeah,
there where we got Von Miller, and that's really the only I can remember, like that one season, which would be like 2009. But for the
yep,
most part, I remember the Broncos being at least an 8-8 or better team.
yep,
Um,
yeah,
Even with Tim Tebow, we won that playoff game against the
yeah,
Steelers,
yep,
and that was like, most people remember where they were for that moment. Still the only overtime game to end in a single play. So I just wonder, like,
yeah,
what are the Broncos giving those younger fans to keep them hanging on? And there's
yeah.
not much.
Yeah, it's difficult too when you're kind of in a rebuild period because I think kids, like me specifically, and my little cousin, and I think younger, you know, kids tend to gravitate towards players specifically,
Yeah,
rather than a whole team. Like I said, I grew up with Champ Bailey. He's my favorite player of all time. I remember drafting Tim Tebow and No Sean Moreno. I loved him. Eddie Royal. I loved Eddie Royal, and the
yeah,
couple years where Brandon Lloyd was just fantastic for us. I loved him. I think kids I think they fall in love with players, and it's difficult now because truthfully, now after seeing all the successful teams, the only players that I can truly say that I'm just like head over heels for is Justin Simmons, obviously, as of recent anyway. Justin Simmons and Patrick Surtain now, because he
for
just reminds
sure.
me so much of Champ Bailey, and
Yeah, me too.
maybe Court. I mean, past that, it's been kind of like every position is just rotating. Garrett Bowles maybe a little bit too, just because I've kind of developed into being a Utah fan because CSU's awful and they have been forever. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think younger kids specifically, I think they kind of gravitate towards players, and we just haven't had a whole lot of stardom in 10 years almost.
Yeah, and the day we lost Von Miller, that was a sad day.
Yeah,
That was like,
yeah, that
what?
sucked so bad. Well, and
Um, the
and
middle of the
after that,
season.
yeah, yeah, there was that trade, and like after I was heartbroken after that, and I didn't really feel that way about losing a player up until we cut Justin Simmons. I read that and I was just like, dude, what in the that Justin Simmons hurt me quite a bit. I
Yeah,
hate that we cut him. Nah,
yeah. That Justin
but
Simmons is like, as far as like overall just character, like
yep,
he's the best Bronco I've ever witnessed in my life. I mean, I know
yep,
Demaryius Thomas was also,
yeah,
one of those guys, and they even made an award named after him, the Demaryius Thomas
hmm,
Award, which I think goes
yep,
to the best locker room presence or
yep,
something like that. So,
yeah,
Demaryius Thomas, of course, was a light every time he came around, and
yeah.
um, but yeah,
That whole
what was that?
Oh, I was just gonna say that whole wide receiver core
Yeah,
from I mean Emmanuel Sanders, Wes
Eric
Welker. I
Decker.
love Wes Welker. That whole freaking wide receiver core was just phenomenal. There was nothing but love for like any of them, and just they all went away, and
Yeah,
Demarius died, and that was another just awful day. And
yeah.
yeah,
Those are, I would say, three of the worst days in the past at least 10 years is Von
yep,
Miller being traded, Demaryius Thomas passing, and then
yep,
well, we'll see about Cortland Sutton. He hasn't showed up to OTAs yet.
yeah,
Um, he wants more money. Maybe we could talk about that in a second. Then, of
yeah,
course, Ronnie Hillman passing
yep.
away
Ronnie
too.
Hillman. Yep, that was
That
another
was
one. Yeah, I loved
unexpected.
him too. Yeah.
I didn't even know he was battling cancer.
I
And
don't
then
think I didn't. I don't think anyone did really.
yeah, that was like just so shocking because you look at these
Yeah.
athletes and you're like, these guys are, you know, just the freaks of nature. And then
Yeah.
it's so like I guess humanizing to see like,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
that can happen to
Extremely.
them.
And I think for me anyway, it extends past like Broncos players even like who's that Redskins player, that Commanders Haskins? Like he
Dwayne
passed.
Haskins.
Yep.
Yep.
He passed and it was kind of just like a punch in the gut. Like what in and he was the same age as me, or you're younger, you're older, one of you. He was the same age as me, and it's just so like it's
Yeah.
pretty defeating. It's pretty defeating to see, such big stars pass so early. And
Yeah, and
yeah,
I lived in South Florida for 7 years before I joined the Navy, so, Dwayne
hmm,
Haskins, like, passing away right there was, like I knew exactly where he was. I
yep,
knew
yeah,
exactly that part of the highway. It didn't make any sense to me why he was walking. It was
yeah,
still kind of like a strange situation, and then,
yeah,
a lot of players go to South Florida and they get into some kind of trouble, like whether it's a famous baseball pitcher for the Marlins dying on a jet ski, or
yep,
just
yep,
Florida does kind of bring out
yeah,
that in people, and
hmm,
sometimes you realize that you're not invincible,
oh
and
yeah,
I think
yeah,
I got
absolutely.
so lucky too because I can't even tell you the amount of stupid decisions I made like when I was younger, and somehow I made it
Yeah,
through all
yeah,
those. Yeah, definitely some people not as lucky. So
yeah,
when you look past the Pat Bowlen era and you see the Walter Penner group kind of coming in, Sean Payton going into year two, Bo Nix
yeah,
is the first quarterback that Sean Payton has selected since being a Broncos head coach. Do you think that the overall, because I know we kind of doom and gloom talked a little bit, but to be honest, when I look at this roster, I see a pretty good, at least offensively. I think there's a top 10 offensive line. I think Bo Nix was the perfect quarterback for Sean in his system. I think Javonte Williams, being a year removed from that terrible knee injury, is going to be better in
Yep.
year 2. I think
Yep.
Audric Estime is from
Yeah.
Notre Dame. I think he's going to play a bigger role than
Yeah.
people think. I think
I
Marvin
think
Mims
so.
is going to make a step up. He wasn't used enough last year. Marvin Mims,
Not nearly enough.
Josh Reynolds was better than Jerry Jeudy was last year. I know it's
Yep.
like, Jerry Jeudy was drafted really high, but the stats
Yeah.
tell you that Josh Reynolds is an upgrade. Tim Patrick comes back. It's been 2 years, but if he can stay healthy, he was last time he was fully healthy, he was the best receiver on our team over
Yeah.
Cortland Sutton.
Yep.
And then
Absolutely.
if we get Cortland Sutton, to come back, and I even mentioned Troy Franklin being
Yep.
drafted. So I look at this team and I'm like, why not us? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
what does this
Yeah.
team really need? Like, I know that, Harbaugh and Herbert and Reed and Patrick Mahomes and all that stuff, but I think that this is a pretty damn good roster. I know that
Yeah.
and especially for a rebuild, like, we tore it all down. This is a rebuild, and I got to
Yeah.
say, like, this looks pretty good for a rebuild.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I'm pretty excited to see what individual players do. Like Estime, I'm super stoked about him. The dude he's a freak, dude. He's huge. He's fills that power back position perfectly. And we have Jaleel McLaughlin, who I was really excited about last year. I'm stoked to see him I think he's going to take a little bit of a bigger role, being the smaller, faster kind of, probably since experience and his age and whatever else, probably be like a third down back or whatever, first down back, and have one of the bigger boys come in. But yeah, I'm so stoked to see individual players. Our receiver group is super young and great. And I was a big Tim Patrick fan. Him and Russ were looking super, super good before his second ACL injury. I remember
Yeah,
reading that and I was watching video. They had chemistry just like right away. And I really, really hope he can pull it back together, because he's a jump ball freak. Like
yeah.
his 50-50's better than Cortland's, if not, you know what I mean? The
Better hand,
same, or if
great
not better.
great hands too.
Yep. Yep. Great hands. And I don't know, having an older guy presence like that on like a younger team or a younger receiver core, I think will really help. And I think it'll kind of, if he is healthy, I think it'll kind of take the spotlight off of Court a little bit. And I think we're going to see Court do really, really well. Like if he can just get open and there's genuine other threats on the field. I wanted Judy to work out really bad. His route running was great, but that sucked. But yeah, I think
Yeah.
Court's going to do really, really well this year with with other threats around him, where he can really kind of shine and do stuff in the background. And I think this year is going to be pretty exciting.
Yeah, I thought Tim Patrick, last we saw him, I was like, man, if he can even be just some of what he was last time we saw him,
Yep.
then we're gonna
Yep.
get a really good player. And
Yeah.
his hands, though, super, like, his hands, he just doesn't drop a ball, no matter
Yeah.
good
Great
throw,
hands.
bad throw. He's got a large
Yeah.
catch radius. And what was most surprising is I saw Denver, their social media team, posted one of their drills from OTAs, and he changed his number from 81 to 12. And
Yeah.
I didn't recognize him at first. And I
Yeah.
was looking at his footwork, and I was like, I don't remember Tim Patrick being a footwork specialist, like these guys that
Hmm.
have insane
Yeah.
footwork. But I guess that might be an underrated part of his game. He looks like he's ready to ball out this season. Like,
Yeah.
I
Yeah. I really,
imagine he's
yeah. Like,
hungry.
I can imagine so. Yeah, I'm really excited to watch him. And like 2 years of ACL injuries, he's basically, I imagine, I had my fair share of it, but I sprained my ankle so bad one practice and I was out for like 4 or 5 weeks. And like like with leg injuries, once you start to get going, you're kind of just, especially with ACL, I imagine, because it's such a high impact muscle, you're probably just working on strengthening like high impact, like fast twitch muscles around the tendon and around so I imagine his footwork probably is pretty good, after 2 years of that.
Yeah. Okay, it came back. It was frozen for a second.
Oh, there we go.
Uh, looking at the direction that we're headed, what are the expectations for the Broncos in 2024. Can they go to the playoffs as a wild card team? And we'll see what's going on. I think he's having some technical difficulties, but he's going to be coming right up, and I'm going to ask him straight up. I want to know, am I the only one that thinks that Denver is potentially going to be a playoff team this year? I look at this team and a lot of people that are at least from Reddit side and YouTube side are like, there's no way that we're a playoff team this year. And we just did that article on the Only Football podcast yesterday, where we talked about which divisional winners are safe and which ones are not safe. And Rick said straight up that the AFC West is absolutely no threat for the Chiefs, right? There's no threat for anybody to take the crown from the AFC West. And I'm willing to say, I think that there is going to be a threat. I think Denver has what it takes to at least stay competitive within the division. And then we're going to talk about the Chargers as well, because the Chargers just made a whole entire culture shift over there in LA. Okay, they bring in Harbaugh, they draft Joe Alt, they draft Ladd McConkey, they get Junior Colson, a linebacker. They get a good edge in Justin Obigibi from Alabama, the defensive tackle. Brendan Rice could play a vital role. Speaking of vital, they drafted Kamani Vital out of Troy, another running back threat. And they got Cam Hart, a cornerback out of Notre Dame. So I look at the AFC West and I think, all right, I think the Chargers and Chiefs are going to be pretty good. But do you think we can compete and try to take that crown for the first time?
I don't know. Naturally, I'm kind of a pessimist. By the way, my whole stream or whatever just cut out for like 2 full minutes.
No worries.
Okay. Naturally, I'm kind of a pessimist, so I don't know. It's kind of hard, especially with the Chiefs. Like, for some reason, they're just unbelievable. I mean, on paper, their team isn't like fantastic. I think they'll probably be. I think we're probably going to split the series there. They'll probably be first in the West. I don't know. Once again, I'm not worried about the Chargers. Harbaugh has a lot of things to fix with that team, and he's a run-first guy.
Not worried about Jim Harbaugh?
I don't think so. No, I'm not a big Michigan guy at all. My best friend went to Michigan State, so I'm kind of a big Michigan State fan. And I know he beat the brakes off of Michigan State last year, but I don't know. It's his first year back in quite a while, since I don't even know when he left the NFL, but
do you know what happened his first year coming into the NFL with the 49ers? I think week 6, the 49ers, and by the way, the 49ers were one of those teams, like I said, during my childhood that were constantly 3-13, 4-12. Yeah. Jim Harbaugh came in week 6. They were 5-1, playing a 6-0 team, and then they won that game. Yeah. They went to the NFC Championship in 3 of the 4 years Harbaugh was there.
Yeah.
I mean, all we've seen from this guy is that he wins immediately. Yeah. And, they said the same thing about a guy that was a head coach last year, DeMeco Ryans.
Yeah.
They said the same thing. They're like, all we know about him is that he succeeds at everything he does. And that was true with the Texans. And I'm with you. Like, trust me, I want to be with you. I don't want to be like pumping the Chargers tires, and that's not what I'm about. I hope that it fails. But I guess I just don't see how the sample size is so large.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. It's just he's coming into a very strong division. It's his first time back in a while. He's been a run first guy for however long he was in college, and um, it kind of looks like he's gonna continue on with that a little bit. Um, I don't know. Not saying that I wasn't worried about him. Probably that was probably a little harsh. Um, but I think the Chargers have so much to fix. Like little things too, just a little hard to find things. Like Justin Herbert, I actually like him quite a bit. Um, it's hard to say that against divisional rival, but they're the Chargers, and I've never really had a reason
Yeah.
to hate them. But like I like Justin Herbert. They got rid of Austin Eckler and Keenan Allen, didn't they? They traded
Yeah.
both of
Austin
them.
Eckler,
Yep.
Keenan Allen, Mike Williams.
Yep. So that's their basically two first, one wide receiver ones in Mike Williams and Keenan Allen, and Austin Eckler he's an all-purpose yards freak. And I don't know. I think this year, I think it's going to be kind of a trial year for him. I think if we give him a few years, he'll probably be very, very good. Like Chargers GM, I don't know if I don't know if he's very good at all having Brandon Staley stay that long.
That's fair.
Yeah, I don't know. I think the Chargers. I think they'll be better than the Raiders. I don't know. Honestly, I think the Chiefs are probably first in the West again, and then it's probably a toss-up for second between all three of the other teams. The Broncos are obviously in a huge rebuild at the moment, and kind of just have to gain team chemistry and see who can do what, and let Sean Payton take the reins. But George Patton, he's been great at drafting. So we have a lot of exciting rookies, and Bo Nix, obviously the most exciting, you know what I mean? And but the Raiders had probably the first two rounds in the league between Brock Bowers and can't remember the other guy's name, but that tackle they took, he's a
Yeah.
freak of nature. They had a great draft. I think the Raiders are probably going to be pretty strong this year.
What
So
about
I
at
don't know.
quarterback with Gardner Minshew?
I don't know. The last 10 years, the Raiders they've been kind of like a run first team too, with Josh Jacobs, and he beat the brakes off the Broncos every time we played the Raiders. I don't know if he'll actually have to do much for them to be,
Competitive.
good, competitive. I think he's a big upgrade over who was it? Aiden O'Connell.
Aiden O'Connell, who
That
apparently they said in training camp right now, they said that he's earned the right to take like the first team snaps. So it
cool.
seems like it's his job to lose.
Yeah, I would imagine so. He's had it for a year, 2 years. I would imagine it's probably his job to lose. But yeah, I think it's probably going to be pretty tight in the West this year. Aside from the Chiefs probably going 11-6 or whatever again.
Well, the Raiders are in an interesting situation because it's like if Aiden O'Connell is the guy or he's not the guy, that seems like the most vital question for the Raiders to answer this year. Because if Aiden O'Connell's not the answer and you pull him and you put Minshew in, who will keep you in the playoff hunt picture, you're not going to be able to draft a quarterback next year. So it's kind of a conversation that I would imagine that they need to have, between Antonio Pierce, the head coach, like, hey, we can put in Aiden O'Connell for the whole year, no matter how bad it is. We just ride it out. And if he's that bad, we'll have a top pick in the draft next year. But if they're just, competitive and they win 7-8 games, they're going to be in the exact same situation that they are this year.
Yeah. Well, and I don't know. Truthfully, I don't know if that's too much of a worry for them. I was reading the other day that there's a whole bunch of people that are just not impressed with next year's quarterback class coming up.
Shedeur Sanders. Shedeur.
Whatever. Like I
What
said,
do you think?
I'm a CSU fan, so
But aside from that, do you think he's going to be good in the NFL?
I think he probably has qualities that'll translate. Yeah. I think he's great at CU, obviously, and his O line was atrocious, probably the worst in, I don't know what, Power Five football.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think he'll probably be good. I think he probably has a very decent chance, especially now that quarterbacks are getting faster and more mobile. And yeah, I think he'll probably be pretty good.
Well, hopefully we won't be needing a quarterback next year because Bo
I
Nix
hope not.
is gonna work out. And you said you were a fan of Justin Herbert who went to Oregon. Are you a
Yep.
fan of him because he went to Oregon, or and if that's the
No,
case,
I just honestly, I like his game. I think really the only reason anybody's an Oregon fan is because of the uniforms. That's, but I mean, Oregon, they come out with good quarterbacks. Marcus Mariota's he's probably the outlier in recent years, but even still, he was serviceable for quite a while, and he's a great backup now. And I don't know, I really appreciate how tough Justin Herbert is. He reminds me a lot of
Philip Rivers?
Matt, yeah, Philip Rivers, Matt Stafford, those kind of guys that kind of just sit there and they just get hit and hit and hit and hit. And yeah, it kind of sucks how his starting position came about with Tyrod Taylor getting stabbed in the ribs by a team doctor,
Yeah,
especially because I remember Tyrod Taylor looking really good for the most
yeah,
part. But
yeah. I
yeah,
thought he was gonna be a comeback player of the year.
yep, 100%. Yeah, I don't know. I'm a fan of toughness. Matt Stafford and Drew Brees. They're two of my favorite quarterbacks of all time, and
You kind of look
I
like
just,
Matthew Stafford.
thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I like tough, gritty players. So that's just what Justin Herbert is. He just hates punishment. He's played injured for 2 years in a row,
Yeah,
like really beat up, and he's just still slinging it. I think that's super cool.
I agree. I bet you're a Brett Favre fan too, because
Yeah.
he was just one of those
Yep.
guys that would get just punched in the mouth and then smack you on
Yep.
the ass and
Same. Yeah.
run.
Same with John Elway. John
Yeah,
Elway got. I mean, he grew like playing in the '90s too, when defenses were. That was before
right.
defenses started getting called on
Yeah, that was
targeting
when you
and
could really punish
yeah,
the offense.
yeah,
And
yeah,
Aaron Rodgers actually took a lot from Brett Favre. Like
yeah,
if you see Aaron Rodgers talking in interviews, he's always like he only does the single bar helmet
yep,
because he doesn't wear any of the rib protection. And
mm-hmm,
he'll tell you, he's like, well, I learned from Brett Favre, and Brett Favre didn't wear any of that shit. So
yeah, yeah,
I'm not gonna do it.
yep,
And that's kind of we're slowly that's kind of fading out, that type
yeah,
of quarterback. So it's like
yeah,
whenever you hang on, like especially the helmets, like even
yeah,
these newer guys that take the hits, they're not wearing that old helmet Rodgers wears,
yeah, yeah,
and that like it seems like when he retires, that's the last time we'll see that helmet.
yeah. I imagine so.
Um, so trying to get your thoughts on something. We talked about Oregon and how awesome their uniforms were. Bo Nix is going from wearing the best uniforms in college football to wearing the blank.
I actually really like the new ones. I'm a pretty big
Okay,
fan.
okay,
Yeah, yeah. I don't.
good. I'm
Yeah,
happy. We
yeah,
need some of that.
yeah. I'm a
I
fan of change, and
you
I
like it?
think yeah. I mean, the old uniforms, that was Pat Bowlen's era. I mean, the old D logo. I do wish they brought that back. That's the coolest logo in the history of the league. But
Yeah,
it's a fresh start. The matte blue helmets are super kick ass. The 5280 on the pants. It's super nice. Yeah, I'm a pretty big fan of the new uniforms. I know it's pretty controversial, but I like them.
no, that's good. That's like my whole point is to I'm trying to get, different opinions on this
Yeah,
channel. And it seems like everybody said the same thing. They're like, I'm not crazy about them, but they're fine.
yeah,
And it's like, I was excited to hear somebody go, I
Yeah.
like them a lot,
Yeah.
because that is a different opinion than the one that's been echoed here. So
Hmm.
so you're a huge fan of them. I gotta say, when I first saw them, I wasn't a huge fan.
Yeah.
I
No.
I think part of me was just expecting, and I kind of knew they were going to do this, but it's my fault. I really wanted them to change their colors to go back to kind of
The
that
powder
blue
blue.
crush. Yeah,
Yep.
like that's
Yes,
really
sir.
what I wanted. And when I saw, it was kind of like, I think 5 years ago they introduced those alternative uniforms with the D on the
Yep.
helmet, but it was
Yep.
like navy blue and orange.
Hmm.
And I was like, man, that would be sick. But I
Yeah.
wish they would just go to that other blue and orange.
Yeah.
And it's like as soon as I saw these new uniforms, I was like, they're not going to do it. Um,
Yeah.
and I guess I just had my hopes up
Yeah.
that they would. And somebody was saying, like, people. I interviewed an older fan. He was like, people are nostalgic about a time they
Hmm.
didn't even live in. And I was
Hmm.
like, yeah, but also, like, retro is coming back in style.
Yeah.
Miller Lite
Yeah.
cans are no longer.
Hmm.
If you saw what they were in the 2000s, like, you would be like, that's so dorky. Like, okay, go
Yeah.
listen to Fred Durst and Limp Bizkit. Like, I mean, it's like, it's style, in the style right now is going back to 80s and even 90s.
Yeah.
And I think if Denver would have gone back to, let's say, um this right here, let's see, yeah, this will work. Let's say Denver would have gone back and,
Yeah.
like,
Hmm.
why couldn't they just do it? Just
Yeah. I know.
full send. I mean, look how
Yeah.
sick. And instead,
Yeah.
now look at this.
Yeah. I
Now look
know.
at us.
No, I wholeheartedly agree. I went through the exact same emotion because I was hoping for the powder blue to come back.
I like
Um,
this more than
yeah.
what we have now.
I don't know. I think I do like it more, but I think the only reason I like it more is because I grew up with it. I don't know. The new ones, it's modernity. You know what I mean? It's the numbers, everything's simple, and the the pattern on the sleeves instead of like the stripe down the side. I think that's great.
I think
Yeah,
I
it took.
grew to love that stripe.
Yeah, I know. I did too. I think that and I keep going back to Pat Bowling, but he was like, he's the most important part of the Broncos for, like my whole childhood, basically. So I thought it was appropriate that they changed uniforms pretty. I mean, it's been almost, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years, however long, but I thought it
Yeah.
was appropriate for those uniforms to kind of pass with him and have those be his legacy and those be Pat Bowlen's uniforms. So I was ready for a change personally.
Yeah, I think this one on this first one looks great, but
Yeah.
how many times are you gonna wear it? Once a year?
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
and then you got this, and it's like, okay, like,
Yeah.
that it's like, okay, right?
Yeah.
It's not terrible, it's not good. And then you have
Yeah.
this one on the far right that
Yeah.
legitimately looks like when you play Madden and they give you
Yeah.
a default uniform. Like, I saw this comment
Yeah.
everywhere, and I'm like, it's so true. Like, how is somebody getting paid millions of dollars? Like, Oregon, look at
Yeah.
all the teams that did their uniforms. Like, the
I
Texans
know.
redid theirs. The
Yeah.
Jets even did, like, it's like everyone's nailing this.
Yeah.
And it's just like, leave it to us to continue to be, and I hate it. It's like, we have the
Yeah.
money, we have the resources. Like, why can't it? I just It drives me
Yeah.
absolutely crazy. But I have said, like, I'm gonna wait till I see him on the field,
Yeah.
right?
I think that's the biggest thing.
And I also gotta remember that I've gone to the store and bought in, like, a rug that looks beautiful at Home Depot, and then I go put it
Yeah.
inside of my,
Yeah.
my living room, and I'm like,
Yeah.
"It doesn't look good," and I'm, like, upset. And then a week
Yeah.
later, I'm like, "Oh, okay, no, it does look good."
Yeah.
So it might just take a little bit of time to getting used to, but
Yeah.
I was just when you see something in the store, it's like, you kinda you fall in love at first sight. Like, that's
Yeah.
not how I felt about these. And that kind of hurts because when I was picking, at 8 years old, my favorite team, it was definitely the uniforms that
Hmm.
I was like a Broncos fan, and I was so excited. I thought we had the coolest uniforms in the NFL,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that
100%.
I'm kind of sad about that. But I do
Yeah.
like that they brought back the uh the Patrick Surtain video where he
Oh,
showed. Yeah, that's so
yeah.
cool. And
That's
what
it.
game do you think they'll take those out for?
Oh, it'll be a rivalry game. I
Raiders
think it.
probably at home.
Yeah. Yeah. Probably Raiders at home, I think. And I'm stoked for it. That'll be, I don't know. I think my high, like I said, going to games before 2015 and then going to games after 2015, the energy's, it's just not the same. So I think a Raiders game at home, brand new uniforms. I think, I don't know. I'm excited for the energy in the stadium to kind of come back a little bit. I think the new uniforms will kind of help with that, regardless if everybody doesn't like them or not. But yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's something new. It's exciting. It's something to to cheer about, you know.
Yeah, and those are the 1977 throwbacks, and I actually interviewed a guy earlier today that had season tickets from 1977 to 1997.
Yeah, that's
And
awesome.
yeah, and he was there's like a famous bridge. What was it called? It was called let's see. It was called oh, I forgot what it was called. Well, there was a famous bridge that was built in Denver, and he sat next to the guy that made it, basically.
Hmm.
And
Yeah,
he was just explaining how, like, when you have season tickets, it's a family. Like, I've only
yeah,
gone to games by myself, and with that, it's like you just kind of get. If you ever, I don't want to say like you're invited to a party, but you don't know anyone at it.
yeah,
Because
yeah,
it's like we're all Bronco fans, so we have something in common. But
yeah,
they're still kind of like you're by yourself,
yeah,
you know.
yeah.
So
Not 100%. Like my grandpa and my parents having season ticket, my mom having season tickets for so long. Like my mom, the guy next to her, actually, he was a Raiders fan. He had season tickets. He'd come to the Bronco games, and he'd watch Bronco games, and we'd always go to the Raider games, and we'd sit next to him. And he's the coolest dude ever. We sat and talked. I can't remember what his name is. I think it was Tim or something. But he was born and raised in Colorado. But his dad was a huge Raiders fan. So he turned out to be a huge Raiders fan, and he had never gone to a Raiders. He never went to the Black Hole, but his family bought him tickets to go to the Broncos Raiders game in the Black Hole. And he would. I remember talking to him about it. He was so stoked. Like he was
yeah.
super cool, and there was an elderly couple next to my grandpa's tickets for the longest time that we sat and talked to, and yeah, it's pretty cool when you go to games and you just kind of know people. You sit there and talk about life, and then you watch the Broncos, and it's pretty fun.
Yeah, I hope that I can. That's kind of my goal with this channel is I'm hoping that I can kind of maybe create a community, and then, maybe eventually down the road, like, I get to meet maybe everybody, or we all go
Hmm.
to a game or something.
Yeah, that'd
Um,
be incredible.
because it's like I'm these interviews are coming from all around the country,
Hmm.
and I figured, I can't be the only one that's like, I I don't have a community for this like thing that literally drives my life. Like I'm driving my, girlfriend's parents, like anybody that knows me, like I drive them crazy because I'm like,
Yeah,
look at this video of John saying this one's for Pat, but look, you got to remember that John, and tell this whole
yeah,
story, and it's like
yeah.
you're just trying to get somebody to feel what
Just
you're feeling,
yeah, yeah, one hundred
and
percent.
yeah, it's difficult sometimes. So but there's a ton of people that feel that way. So I'm really
Yeah,
grateful for doing these interviews and stuff like that. We got about 6 minutes left, so I was gonna try to fly through a couple things really quick.
sure.
Um, which game are you most excited for this year on the slate? Would it be Russell Wilson coming to Denver week 2? Would it be a game against the Chiefs, the Raiders, or Chargers? Would it be the
Raiders,
Jets, the Raiders?
Raiders home game. Yep, that's the
Okay.
best game to go to every year.
Yeah, I went to it last year and it wasn't. I can tell you that.
Yeah,
Last year it
that's
was
fair.
last year it was the home opener,
Yeah,
and I've gone to the last 2 home openers in a row. We've lost both of them, so I'm not
Yeah.
going this year. The year before it was in Seattle, and I was at that game.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just there's something that really sucks about losing the home opener,
Yeah.
especially to the Raiders.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
uh,
It's pretty brutal.
you should have told your Raiders friend the difference between the Broncos and the Raiders is that you can actually come to our stadium and cheer for the Raiders, and
Yeah.
you'll leave with your life.
Yeah. Yeah. I got a chance to go to the black hole when I was pretty young. My mom took me. It was
Really?
it was rough, dude. It was scary.
Really?
Yeah. And I
God.
was like I was young and it was just me and my mom. So obviously, people were respectful and they're respectful enough, but like the black hole that's a different atmosphere, dude. I don't think the stadium in Vegas will ever replicate the black hole. It was weird there. Like it was scary being a Broncos fan in the black hole.
It was kind of like being on a I don't know, I'm asking. Being on a pirate ship with the who's the guy that his girlfriend took a shit on his bed? The
Johnny Depp.
Johnny. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like in Johnny Depp is your parent. It's like you're not safe because you're still dealing with pirates around you, but you feel
Yeah.
safe because it's a Disney movie.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it was pretty wild. I've been to a lot of Broncos Raider games, and I don't think I've ever been to one where somebody wasn't getting arrested. Like,
They put a jail in their new stadium.
yeah, they do. Yeah, dude.
I
I know
heard
it's
about that.
awesome.
I think it was the Pro Bowl. I think the Pro Bowl was in Vegas its first year, and who was it? It was a running back. It was New Orleans. It was New Orleans running back. Why am I blanking on his name? Saints Alvin Kamara. He got
Yeah,
arrested for beating up somebody, and I was looking at it, and they're like, he was booked inside the stadium.
yeah, yeah. I think it's
And I was
awesome.
like, well,
I
they
think
got
it's
that
so
right.
funny. It's the most Raiders thing ever to have a jail cell in the freaking stadium. It's hysterical.
I hate that it's like kind of cool, but but whatever. I'm just
Yeah,
gonna, I like that we have class and
yeah,
passion,
yeah,
and plus, like, if you're talking about just overall success, like, okay, it's got to be the Broncos.
yeah,
I mean, the
yeah,
Chiefs are working their way up, but if we can get our team rolling now, hopefully we can kind of shut that down before it really gets rolling. Um,
yeah,
but it's going to be tough. It's going to be
yeah.
tough.
I think so.
The
Yeah.
good news is that Travis Kelce, doesn't have 10 more years of football left in him.
God bless. God
Yeah,
willing, he's only got one or two. I don't wish for injuries, but
I don't
he just
either, but
needs to retire.
he just needs to move on to his next chapter of life. And
Yeah,
I like his podcast he does with his brother, New Heights.
yeah, yeah. Because Jason's awesome. I love Jason Kelsey.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
I do too. I think there was a game where it was a home game and Travis Kelce, like, they beat the Broncos, and he was just like, "F you," like screaming "F you" to the fans
yeah,
and stuff. And I was like, God, I just
yeah,
want to beat them so bad. And, like, I wish
yeah.
I could do something to
I
help.
know. Have you ever been to the stadium against the Chiefs on a home game loss?
Yes, a bad home game loss.
Yeah. And did you walk down the tunnel on the west side and you heard all the freaking Chiefs fans chanting down the tunnel?
Ugh, I don't remember.
Yeah, there's that big ramp that zigzags up,
Yeah, yeah.
and yeah, every time I went to a couple, and there was always one. We leave like right at. Oh, I was at the game, um, where the Broncos were up. We had Vernon Davis as our tight end,
Oh, wow.
and we were up, and it was like 3 minutes left, and the
Who was our quarterback?
ooh, maybe the Broncos weren't up. It had to have been probably Teddy Bridgewater, I would think.
Okay, so we're talking 3 years ago.
Three, maybe a little longer.
Did Patrick Mahomes dislocate his kneecap trying to do a QB sneak in the first half, and then he was out for the rest of the game?
No, it was Joe Flacco. Joe Flacco was the quarterback.
I was at that game.
Yeah, it was
I was
cold and
We were
freaking
there.
sucked.
Yeah, it was like 44 to like 10 or something. It was
Yeah,
awful.
I'm thinking of the wrong game. The Broncos were not winning. But yeah,
Oh
we
my
stayed
God.
until the end.
Dude, yeah,
And
I mean, I tune it out. That's why I
yeah.
don't remember, because I was just tuning it out. But I got orders, military orders, to go from Pensacola to Washington State, and they gave me a week to get there.
Mm-hmm.
So I made it go through Denver, and
Yep.
then they had a home game. I believe that was Monday Night Football.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yep.
that was Monday Night Football.
Yep.
And I was
Yeah.
dude, that's crazy. We were in that game together. It's so
Yep.
strange
Yeah.
for me, because
Absolutely.
I haven't been to that many games. And
Yeah.
I just remember Mahomes, dislocating his kneecap
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the first half. And I
Yep.
remember us getting just blown out. And that's
Yep.
when I really learned how good of a person Justin Simmons was, because after that game, he still spent an hour and a half signing every autograph.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, and I was like, dude, this guy's something else.
Yeah. But yeah, we were at and we walked down that ramp and the chants were awful. It's Chiefs fans in Mile High sucks so bad, dude. The whole freaking stadium was just chanting down that. It was so loud and echoing, and the game
Oh,
sucked.
God. I hate that they do the tomahawk chop. They stole that from Florida State. It's not even theirs.
Yeah, I
Like,
know.
they
I
just
know.
took it.
Yeah.
It
I don't know.
it's
It,
ridiculous.
yeah.
I just, it's like these young Chief fans, those are the ones that drive me crazy. It's like you just
They
jumped on this bandwagon.
I
I know
know,
you did.
exactly. And they don't remember when we used to beat the dog shit out of them
I
every
know.
year.
Yeah.
And it makes me so angry. I
Manning
hate it.
won the AFC West every single year
Yep.
in Denver, and I think his record was like absolutely insane. Like, he was going like 7-1, 8-0 every
Yep.
single year in the
Yep.
division. Like, and yeah, now you
Yep.
got all these
The young
cocky
Chiefs,
10-year-olds
they
walking
don't they
around
don't
with
remember
3
it.
rings.
Yeah. They don't remember it. I hate it.
Well, do you think the Chiefs are going to try to three-peat this year? Do you think that's an actual possibility?
Yeah. I mean, obviously it's a possibility. What was weird last year though is that they didn't look good. Like they looked good, but they weren't like the normal Chiefs like all
Right.
freaking year. And then they just picked it up during the playoffs.
It was just during the playoffs. That's why
Yeah.
everybody's saying. I just saw an article that said divisions that are divisional winners from last year that are vulnerable this year,
Mm-hmm.
and they said
Yep.
the Chiefs were the safest team. And I was like, I love how we all just, because they played good for the 3 football games at the way end of
Yeah.
the season, we forget that Mahomes was like crying in his press conferences. Like they were having a total meltdown the
Yeah.
whole entire season. So,
Yeah.
and then what was their problem? They didn't have a receiver. And how did they address that? They drafted the fastest receiver ever, Xavier Worthy.
Yeah.
But with what's going on with Rashee Rice and stuff, it's like, no, the Chiefs are going to have their problems and their flaws. Like,
Mm-hmm. No, 100%. Yeah.
they'll win 11 games probably, but it's going to, they could start, 2-2 or be,
Mm-hmm.
3-3 by
Yeah.
week 6. And I
Yep.
wouldn't be shocked at all. And that's why it's so important Denver gets off to a fast start.
Yeah.
Playing their first 4 games, Bo Nix is going to play elite defenses. You got Pittsburgh, Seattle, who's got a good defense,
Yep.
New York Jets, and then
Yep.
Tampa.
Yep.
Those are going to be a difficult first 4 games. But if Denver
Yeah.
can, it's not Baltimore, Kansas City. If they can just win those games, like maybe they get some good vibes going, and
Yep.
the Chiefs, because even last year, remember the Chiefs lost week 17, I think, to the
Mm-hmm.
Raiders in a
Yep.
must-win game. And
Yep.
it was like, man, if Denver would have beaten New England, like they could have
Yep.
been in the playoffs,
Yeah.
and
100%.
they were still in it. Nobody thought the Raiders were going to beat Kansas City, and then we
Yeah.
still lost that game. And it was like,
I
God
know.
bless it.
I know. It was pretty frustrating. But yeah, I don't know. Those first 4 games, I'm a pretty big fan of trial by fire, drinking from a water hose.
I love it. Yeah.
Yeah.
You would have done good in the
So I think
military.
yeah. I don't know. I'm sure my grandpa would have liked for me to go. He was a Green Beret back in the day. He's a paratrooper.
Oh, hell
So
yeah.
yeah, I meant to say thank you for your service too earlier in
Oh,
the
no,
podcast. Yeah.
thanks for your support,
Yeah.
and thank your grandpa. That takes a lot of balls to do that.
He's a
Uh,
pretty bad man.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Bill, one of our fans of the channel, he's a big Giants fan. He said it's like the Eagles with Lincoln Field. I won't go there ever.
Yeah, yeah, that's just as bad, dude.
Yeah,
Man, playing Philly in Philly, that's got to be one of the worst environments in the league. That whole state, the whole freaking fandom is nuts as it is, and then you just like put them around other people. That's a terrible idea. They shouldn't even have
yeah.
home games, dude.
It is like the closest thing to the Raiders is
Yeah,
is,
yeah,
is the Eagles. Well,
yeah.
man, was there anything that I didn't ask you that you maybe wanted me to ask or anything like that?
No, not that I know of. I just want to say thank you. This was super cool. Like I said, I'm a huge diehard like Colorado sports fan, just all across the board. Um, the Rockies are miserable to watch, so I don't really talk about them too much. But like, I'm a huge Avalanche fan, and I was pretty upset when they lost to Dallas. But Dallas is a great team, and I think they're probably going to beat the Oilers in the Western Conference Finals and go to the Stanley Cup. And if they do, I hope they get swept and they lose 4-0 to the Rangers. And the Nuggets
The
just
other
got
Dallas
knocked
team,
out, and
the
man,
Mavericks.
yeah, the Mavericks. Dallas kind of had our number this year, but yeah, like I said, Colorado sports is over for the year, aside from the Rockies, but that's been over for a month and a half now.
Yeah.
So I was
Well,
just stoked to like come on here and like talk about football. You know what I mean, for an hour. I was
yeah.
excited.
I did. You're always welcome, man. I'll send you after this. I'll send you the link so you can see it on YouTube. And
Sure.
if you want to subscribe to the channel, you'll see all the other interviews that come out, and you can
Hmm.
always message me and be like, "Dude, I want to come back on," and I'll be like, "Sweet," because I just started this, so
Yeah.
doors
Yeah.
always open.
Yeah. Absolutely, dude. Anytime you'll have me. This was a lot of fun. I love talking Broncos. My
Yeah,
my
me
wife,
too.
I live in Utah, so nobody. There's like a few Bronco fans here, but there's a lot of Raider fans. My wife isn't a football fan, so I just get like I kind of just talk my coworkers' ear off about it. And so yeah, this was super sick.
How do you not to get too into it, but how is Utah? Do you like living over there?
It's I don't know, it's kind of weird. Basically everybody lives in like this. The whole state basically lives in the same spot called the Valley. Basically runs from like North Salt Lake to Provo, pretty much, and that's like 80% of the state's population, and I'm right in the middle of that. And
Okay.
I grew up, yeah, and I grew up, and you might not know where it is, but other Colorado, people know. I grew up in Firestone, Colorado. Like growing up,
Is
we had
that
like
like
five.
by Grand Lake and Granby?
Nah, it's up north. We're like 45 minutes from the Wyoming border, about an hour north of Denver.
Oh, so that's
Um,
like by Breckenridge, right?
yep, yep, a little bit. Like I grew up there. We had like 5,000 people in my town growing up, and I worked on a ranch in high school. And like by heart, I'm a Western small town guy.
Yeah.
And then I moved here, and I'm in an apartment complex with 4,000 other people, and it's rough, but the job market's here is super good. I found a really good job out here. Houses are expensive as hell, but they are everywhere. So I mean, for the most part, I like Utah. I just I kind of miss the small town thing. There's too many people here.
Yeah, and I've kind of always been in big cities, and now I'm in, Middle Tennessee, and
Yep,
I'm um, dating a girl that is from a tiny, 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 tiny town
yep,
in Kentucky, and it's just a different type of life, and it's like
yep.
it's funny because like I went to her house and it was like the first time I was over there, I felt almost like anxious,
Mm-hmm.
like I had somewhere to go or something to do.
Yeah.
And then I just like let it, pass
Nope.
over. And then the
Yep.
next morning when I woke up, I was like, oh, I want to stay here.
Yep.
Like it was like
Yeah.
that was gone. And then I couldn't believe that we were only an hour away from, my house in Tennessee. I was
Mm-hmm.
like, it was just blowing my mind. I felt like I took like a month vacation just
Yeah.
going there for a day.
Yep. I don't know. That's the best part of it. Like we had two stoplights, the dive bar, and a grocery store for the most part. Like we had a Home Depot when I turned like 14, 15. So like It's just slow. Front door's never locked. Don't ever have to worry about anything. It's always nice. It's just quiet. That's what I
Yeah.
miss is the quiet. There's too many damn cars here.
Yeah, and
But
when I first left Miami, it was funny. I was like playing ambient sounds of the city because I was used to sleeping with like, a bus stopping, the
yeah,
trolley, the
yeah.
random homeless guy screaming, But that, it's so cool to see the different lifestyles, that
Yeah,
there are. And like, I wouldn't want to, live in the city now unless I got hired to do like something with NFL or ESPN and I had to be in a
yeah,
big market area. Like that would be
yeah,
really cool. But I just kind of look at life like a bunch of chapters, and I want each chapter to be unique and different. And the military chapter, the city, the country, it's all fun. And it's really cool
yeah,
getting to experience this because I never experienced real like country
yeah,
until I got here.
yeah.
'Cause in Florida, it's a lot of like wannabe countries, like, oh, let me grab the I'm country starter
Yeah,
kit, and
yeah,
and these guys live in the suburbs.
yeah, yeah,
Daddy's got money, so they
yeah,
got daddy's truck and a can of
yeah.
Coke in their pocket,
Oh
and
yeah.
put the country station on. But it's totally different getting out here. And I just got my first pair of boots. They were, I'm gonna grab them real quick.
Yeah, you're good. Yeah. What are those? Crocodile? Cayman?
Yeah, I think snake.
Oh, snakeskin. Okay. Yeah.
Dude, it
Yeah.
smells like
Yeah.
just straight leather.
Yep.
There were like,
Yeah, dude.
yeah, what does that say in the bottom? JB Dillon.
Yep.
Yeah. It was
Yeah.
weird. I put them on and it was like I felt like I was walking funny.
Yeah. Yeah. The wheels a little weird, but yeah. Congrats on your first pair of boots, though. That's a big thing. Like I said, I wore boots my whole life. I got a pair. They're for my grandpa. He used to ride bulls. He was sponsored by. He rode for Poudre Valley Co-op.
Shit,
He's done,
really?
dude, he's done all sorts of shit. Like I said, he's a bad man. But you meet him, he's wearing like Tommy Bahama shirts and drinking a gin and tonic. You'd never know.
You never know. Yeah,
Yeah,
I love
he's my
that.
favorite person on the planet. But yeah, he used to be sponsored and he used to get boots at a really, really good discount. So I've got like a 30-year-old pair of Ariats, or genuine ostrich with a dress heel, and they were like,
Damn.
yeah, they were like $600 back in the day, and I've had them for a couple years now, and I've only worn them a couple times. I've only worn them special places and doing special things. And first pair of boots though, that's a
It's a
big
big
thing,
step.
dude. Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
I just needed them to the girl in seeing she was like, "You want to go to this party?" Because her friends got engaged, and of course it's out in Kentucky, and
Yeah.
uh, everyone was wearing boots, and you had your beer can, and you throw a
Oh yeah.
dart, and if it sticks your boot, then the person that threw it has to chug it. You played beer
Yeah.
darts?
Oh yeah. Oh
Yeah. So
yeah.
that was my first time doing that too. So
Yeah.
I'm sure
Nice,
I got a
dude.
lot more good experiences, coming my way.
You got a lot of great experiences. You just wait till a bonfire gets a little out of control. That's when stuff gets pretty wicked. That's always
Next
fun.
weekend. It's happening next weekend.
Yeah.
So the
Yes,
the girl
sir.
the girl's dad, they got like a 50-acre farm, and he was like, we're gonna have a fire. And I was like, I'll help out with it. And he told me, he was like, it's gonna be huge. Like it's like
Yep.
you pile it up and you start it and that's it. Like it
Oh
just
yeah. Yeah,
he's like,
dude.
you'll have to stand like 50 feet back or it'll
Yeah.
burn you. I
Yeah.
was like, "Dude."
So you being out east that way, have you met anybody that makes genuine moonshine? Like makes
I
their own moonshine?
the party I was at, they had some there. They were telling me that you gotta like go like this and like
Yep.
bubbles, like how
Yep.
fast the bubble. It was
Yeah.
like my
How
first
fast?
time hearing about it.
Yeah. The faster the bubbles go away, the higher the proof.
Yeah, yeah,
So
that's what
yeah.
they said. So I didn't get to try it yet, but they were like, it's a different type of,
Dude, you got to get you a jar. I know a guy, he grew up in Louisiana and he makes his own. And I was working with him and we were in North Dakota for like 2 months. And he brought up a jar of just some clear. He called White Lightning. And then he had a jar of apple pie and then he had a jar of blueberry. And we were sitting there, we were drinking in the hotel lobby with those little stupid paper cups.
Yeah.
And we put the clear in the paper cups, and that's what we were shooting. And we were like, I let mine sit for a minute, and we were playing a game, so I didn't have to drink it yet. And it was just sitting in this paper cup. After like 5 minutes, you like lift it up and look at it, and the bottom's starting to get eaten away, and you see it through the cup. Yeah, dude, that's fun stuff.
It's like, what is that doing to my organs?
No, you wouldn't even know. Like,
no,
it's way, way, way different than the stuff you buy from like the store.
Yeah.
Like real stuff, it's a lot easier to drink, but it sucks really, really bad if you drink too much.
Okay, you get the spins really bad.
Super fast. Yeah. You gotta get yourself some real moonshine. That's good stuff.
Yeah, no, I will. And next time I have you on, I'll tell you about it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right. Well, I never pulled up your name. What did you type it in?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, here it is. Show display names. Oh, I don't know why it's not popping up.
I think I saw it a little bit during the front half. I think it was when I restarted. Yeah. Yes, sir.
All right. I've never seen that name before, so
I was named after a bull rider, actually.
That's fitting.
Go figure. Yeah, his name was Ty Murray, but my parents didn't like Ty, so they named me Tice.
That's cool, man.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for coming on, and I look forward to next time.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me. Anytime you need, dude. Anytime you're short a host, I'll come on. It's been a blast.
Yes, sir. And I'll send you that link right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool.
All right, buddy. See ya.
Yep. See ya.